Okay. Here we go, I guess. I don't really have much of a plan for what I'm doing here, but hello everybody, this is Silicontent here, and welcome back to another stream today. This isn't gonna be like a super intense or frankly a super long stream. This is more or less just something I'm doing because I can. So as the title says, there's this project that I've been working on for a little bit now, and I haven't necessarily shown it to any of these channels or anything like that, just because I haven't, I guess, felt the need to. But today I'm actually going to be working on it on stream, mainly because if someone joins and I'm doing one of those things where I'm being really dumb again, someone much smarter than me could potentially show up and correct all of my mistakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I've been working on. And all, for like a quick heads up, this is Five Nights at Freddy's related. If you don't care about Five Nights at Freddy's, you can skip this one. So let me go ahead and just show you real quick. Here we go. So as you can see, we're not in like Godot or anything, obviously. Look at this. We're in Scratch for those unfamiliar. Hold on. We'll keep the desktop audio so you can still hear the music in the back. Yeah, we're in Scratch. So this is a game that I've just for now called Fredbear's Adventure because frankly I couldn't think of anything else more creative than that. So the whole bit is that I started out this whole programming thing in Scratch, right? This is where I originally made stuff like the Five Nights at Fredbear's game, and the Pokeball Clicker Tycoon started on here. I did DoorOS on here. All those little projects that kind of started and then they didn't really finish. And then I kept coming back to them over and over, but never actually did anything. So I, up to this point, I never actually made anything substantial using Scratch. And I look around at all these different people, like I guess Griff Patch is a pretty good example, and I think to myself, wow, these guys are making some really great things with this dinky little website here. Why don't I come back to it now that I've obviously, for one, I have experience with this thing, but I also have experience in other programming languages and just computer science as a whole. That's what my major is. And see if I can actually make something in this thing. Ignore any sounds in the background. That's my parents working on our bathroom. So that was basically the whole goal for this project when I started it. I didn't have like a complete game in mind. I just had the vague idea and the goal of actually making something in Scratch. So that is how this project started, and it grew as I got more and more comfortable with working on it. Of course, there were hurdles with dealing with Scratch's engine. Like one that I will talk about in length as I show you around the project is Scratch's layering system, because these are the two blocks that you get for working with layers, and these are just so god awful. But like I said, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, so as the project grew and grew, the more I realized I could actually make a game here, not just a thing, where its only appeal factor was that I made it in Scratch. I've thought a couple times of taking this game and moving it to something like Godot or something like that, but it just doesn't feel the same when it's in like a full-on game engine. It doesn't have the same kind of intrigue to me. And it also kind of defeats the whole purpose of the challenge that I set out for myself, which was making something in Scratch. So I've continued developing it in here. And kind of like I said at the beginning, this is the result of that. I started this. It's been a decent while. Of course, I took a big break from it for a while because I didn't really have any motivation to work on it. But yeah, the initial release I did of it was back in August, so around the start of my freshman year. And this is obviously an unshared version of it, but if I go to my profile, you can actually see it. I have a build of it that other people can play, and I also have a version of it up on itch. This version's a bit weird, which I'll talk about the reasons why in a bit, but yeah, so as you can, if I go back here real quick and I go to my patch notes, you'll note that the last version I uploaded was in September of last year. Obviously it's been a little bit. That's because I've been doing a lot of stuff under the hood, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, as well as trying to make sure that I actually have some kind of gameplay, because right now the version that you'll find publicly here is more or less kind of a crappy walking simulator. But anyways, so I mean, if you want to read all this information here, you can. It's all on the public version and on itch as well. I think I have my itch linked on Twitch. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've streamed on Twitch. Obviously yesterday I did this. If you're coming from YouTube, I did this big Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 playthrough on stream, so I'm not intending for this to be like another super duper long stream, mainly because I also have other things that I need to work on, like actual important things for a class that I'm procrastinating on right now by working on this. But I'm gonna stop yapping at least for a little bit, and I'm actually gonna show you the game, at least in its current form. Like I said, only me and one other person, Autumn, has played it. So forgive its garbage quality. Let me just go ahead and I'm gonna jump into it and show you what I've got so far. So before I go through and I dissect everything, because I don't know, I feel like it, and before I actually start working on anything, because Lord knows it's gonna be an hour before I actually start writing new stuff. Let me just go on Starter real quick, and you can kind of see what I'm looking at here. We'll leave the volume about there, but we'll turn it down in here. So obviously we have a neat little introduction thing. There's a warning up there. So yeah, this is what I've got so far. Let me turn on my microphone. This is what I've got so far. This is the title screen for the game. Like I said, this is just kind of a basic title that I came up with in 30 seconds, because like I said, a bunch of this stuff I came up with just before I actually wanted to turn this into a game. This was when it was still just a little test to see if I could actually make something in Scratch. So we have a bunch of text like this, we have animations, we have some stuff like this. I went and I tried using a kind of restricted color palette here, just to give myself a bit of an idea as to how I wanted to make stuff. Oh hey Nick, how's it going, man? Yeah, this isn't going to be the most interesting stream, just a heads up, because it's going to be a lot of me talking. I don't adhere to that color palette all the time, because some of the colors are kind of ugly, and I needed a little bit more nuance than that for some sprites, but it's whatever. I wrote this background song in maybe 5 minutes, so it's really short and it loops really quickly. But obviously you're not going to stay on it's only 26 seconds long, but you're not going to stay on this title screen for long. So obviously I generated most of the sound effects with SFXR. So here's the main gameplay loop. Is you go through 5 days and you get certain objectives. Here's kind of the main layout of the restaurant. If I press M, you can see the map of the restaurant. Obviously, map shows location of objectives. That's kind of what this icon is. This is a newer addition, adding this marker here. But the general layout of the restaurant is like this. The whole goal is, going around, Fredbear's Family Diner or whatever, and completing certain objectives. The green room is where you currently are. Obviously, this map isn't to scale, because of course it isn't. If we go up here, you get a little slide down transition. I didn't realize until I watched someone play the game, but there's another FNAF fan game out there called Mechanism. It's by, I think, a popular YouTuber named Animatronic. She made it, and the transition between rooms looks eerily similar to this one, where the black kind of slides down and covers everything. I didn't know when making this game that Mechanism had that transition, and I did not mean to steal it, and I apologize. So anyways, as you can see, moving between rooms updates the map, of course. Oh, hold on. Cat's in here. Okay, sweet. Of course, I'll go into the nitty-gritty of how all this stuff works in a bit, but for now I'm just going to give you like the gameplay overview or whatever. Gameplay in heavy quotes, because once again this thing is a pile of garbage. So obviously you have the name of the room. Here's each room. You can walk around. I don't know. I haven't seen any other... Is it really stealing? A lot of other games have a transition like that. I don't know. I haven't seen any other games that have a transition like that. I don't know. It just know that the reason I connect the dot there is because it's also like another FNAF fan game in this kind of, retro style. Obviously they're very different, but I don't know. I felt like pointing that out because when I watched the gameplay of Mechanism, I was like, oh god, that looks familiar. Oh. But anyways, it's not like this transition. I mean, it's both a stylistic choice and an excuse to cover the screen so that the room can render. That's the whole point of it existing. Because without it, you would just see everything disappear and then load in and stuff like that. Anyways, so you can move in the 4 cardinal directions. You can't move diagonally because screw you. Also, I felt it honestly just looked and felt better if you could only move in the 4 cardinal directions one at a time. Of course, we have all the kids here. They have hitboxes. They're all layered correctly. So, I'm in front of this cup and whatever. Like I said, I'll get to layering later. So this is another bit of the dining room. If I walk over here, close that for now. You dig dug in the background. Yeah, so I went and for most of the sound effects, I just found them on YouTube. I think I have in the credits. I'll just pull them up on itch. It's the same between them. Yeah, I think it was probably arcade ambience that I got. Let me see. Yeah. So it's in, I believe I combined Chuck E. Cheese and arcade ambience. I combined those into one sound. This sound just plays on loop the entire time you're in this restaurant setting to kind of give the sense of like a busy restaurant. That was one of the first things that I added was that kind of sound. But yes, it's like a Chuck E. Cheese. It's like a recording from a Chuck E. Cheese. Every time I test the game, I always can pick out the dig dug. It's weirdly jarring, but it's funny at the same time if you catch it. But yeah, so I just combined like arcade ambience and Chuck E. Cheese ambience that I found online and just made it loop in the background. If you're paying attention to it, I'm pretty sure you can hear where the loop ends, but it's such a ambient, dissonant sound that you really don't notice it unless you're looking for it. So if we move over here, here's where the other dining room is. Added a little arcade here just because I thought it would look cool. So as you can see, here is the main dining room. You can see my mouse, right? Yeah, here's the main dining room. If you come down here, I call it the party room. This is loosely based off of the current version of my older FNAF fan game, Five Nights at Fredbear's. It has a restaurant layout similar to this, although I tweaked it for this game to make a little more sense. Originally, This hallway also connected to this room. It was like one big L-shaped hallway, kind of like the dining room here. But I turned this room up here, I broke it off of this hallway and turned it into restrooms because there were no restrooms beforehand, and I felt like the place needed restrooms. So this room isn't much to write home about. I mean, it's just got these sprites that I drew. I'm not obviously a good pixel artist, if that wasn't obvious. Most of these sprites are ripped straight from Five Nights at Freddy's with just recolors and whatnot. But I drew these and then changed the colors so it looks like they were layered. Yada yada yada, it doesn't really matter. So that's the restrooms, this is the dining room. The show stage looks like it extends beyond into the other room, but I couldn't be bothered to implement that, so for now, you only have an entrance right here. It's not super obvious that this is an entrance to the show stage, which is just kind of like a back area behind the stage. I'm not intending to do really much with this. I'll talk about kind of the plans that I have for this and whatnot later. Right now I'm just showing you the game. Where's the FNAF game where you play detective trying to solve the murder case? That's a game, actually, isn't it? Isn't there? I think there's a FNAF fan game where you're literally like a journalist or something. I think it's Final Nights. I think it's what it's called. I've never actually played it, but I think that's it. Although there should definitely be one where it's like from the point of view of the police or something. That would be a sick idea for a FNAF fan game if it doesn't already exist. So yeah, if we move up here, we move to the kitchen. Obviously, this kitchen becomes relevant tomorrow. So, I mean, there's random stains and stuff on the floor. Like I said, most of this is kind of taken from FNAF. I drew these oven sprites and these counter sprites and the trash can sprite. But like the stains on the ground are from FNAF 3, the Fredbear sprites from FNAF 3. Anyways. So yeah, this room actually has a purpose next night, which I'll talk about later. If we come down here. One other thing that I suppose I should point out, I'll explain it more later, but need more microwaves. That's true. We need a fridge and microwaves for like frozen pizzas or something. Because Lord knows they ain't making those things fresh. But yeah, one thing that I want to note is kind of the jankiness of this all is Fredbear here, your player character, does not actually have like a regular hitbox that hits everything. It's his sprite itself, the entire shape, that counts as the hitbox, which leads to some moments where you can accidentally get caught in certain things, like depending on your sprite. So like here, there's like no arm here because he's facing this direction and he's currently hitting a wall, but if I try and move down, his arm right here extends into the hitbox and now I'm stuck unless I face this way and walk out. Super janky stuff. I've been trying to figure it out for a while. I'm sure I'll probably figure out some kind of solution later, but for right now, this is the best I got. So anyways, we've seen basically the entirety of this side of the restaurant right now. Nothing special, it's just a room. So if we step through here, you'll notice the background ambience gets much quieter because this is the backstage, or at least what I currently have for the backstage. I've more or less decorated this entire part of the restaurant. I still need to decorate these rooms here, which is kind of what these shelves are. It's the start of decoration. So this is one bit of backstage. Like I was saying earlier, this room would have also been more backstage, but I cut it off and turned it into restrooms instead. So if I come down here, this is kind of, you know, the expected security office. You kind of have to have one. This is Five Nights at Freddy's we're talking about. This sprite here, and you can even see it on the map, is meant to be a vent shaft. It's just, the only reason I have it there is because it's in, you know, the fan game that I'm pulling from, my own fan game. It doesn't necessarily have any purpose besides just the look of it, but that's okay. Also, the hitbox here is kind of janky because right now this entire area here you can't walk through. I can even toggle the hitbox to show you. That's where I need to come in and add more stuff here. I just need to figure out what I want to add in this office. There's a reason why this hitbox is so big and why I don't let you walk there. That's something I'll explain in a little bit when I start my rant on Scratch's layering system. We'll get there when we get there. So yeah, if we move up here, just kind of, I'm gonna ask you to ignore something. So when I walk up here, so these are meant to be shelves. These are kind of placeholder sprites because I just added these. They don't really look the greatest. Um, I'm gonna have to ask you to ignore this. I am walking on the shelves. I have a plan to implement some kind of system where you shift from here, like from being, in front of them to being behind them once you walk past this. That's something I have yet to implement. So yeah, if we come up here, obviously this is the room where the actual objective is. And I've been talking for a while, so if you don't remember the objective, I don't blame you. It was to locate the missing child. So obviously the objective is marked in this room because the missing child is right here. So the whole point of having this objective is just so that people have an excuse to, for as long as they want, just run around the restaurant and look around things and get used to the layout. Because you're going to have to get used to the layout for the later objectives that I have planned. I don't know. Everything's subject to change. Could just drop this whole project. Who knows? So yeah, if I walk over to this kid, obviously there's also a back door here. You can see with these two boxes. These represent entrances, exits, whatnot. So obviously if I walk up to this kid, he'll have a little white outline and an instruction to press E on him. This is also kind of a subtle tutorial hinting that whenever you walk up to something and it has this kind of white outline around him, that means you can press E on it. So if I press E on him, I can't move anymore. He does a little something, I don't know. And then it fades out. And this is our little completion screen. So that is the end of day 1. Once again, I wrote that little jingle in like 30 seconds. We move on to day 2, which has the objective take cake to the children. So this is the night I'm currently working on. It's a day, but whatever. Not much has necessarily changed. Some things have moved around, but obviously you can see there's less kids here now. That's just so that it's easier to get up into this room here, the kitchen. If I pull up the map here, you'll notice that there's a bunch of objective markers. These are just to mark where the children are that need cake taken to them. Another way to note where these children are is that they are the only ones with like colored shirts and party hats on. So that's one child you're gonna have to take cake to. This is another child you're gonna have to take cake to. And if I move over here, as you can see, this is the other child I have to take cake to. And of course, the fourth marker is in the kitchen because that's where you get the cake from. This is kind of just a temporary thing. I want to do a better job of explaining this whole mechanic. So like you'll notice now these ovens don't just have black dots up here, they have this kind of stoplight looking thing. And when I walk up to it, it has a white outline, so if I press E, this one's bugged, so don't worry about that. But if I press E on this one, it's fine because I haven't dicked around with it like I have with this one. So this one gives me a cupcake. Like I said, that one's broken, so just don't worry about that for now. It would do the same thing otherwise. So I now have a cake. As you can see up here, there's also a timer or a clock during this night, so it's not a final objective and that completes the night. This is essentially like survival. You have to, wait out the clock like any good FNAF game should. So if I come back up here, you'll notice this cake is done. If I click on it, the dots reset. These are effectively supposed to be like a progress bar. You'll notice that dot just lit up. So yeah, if I come down here real quick, this child's fine. That child up there is surprisingly calm considering he's, supposed to be mad. So is this child. Could be that I broke him. I honestly don't know. That's a whole nother discussion we could have. But hold on. Just give me a second. I think I heard someone knock. Alright, false alarm. It was just autumn. Let's jump back here on pause real quick. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here throughout the entire night. One, because it is honestly going by a lot quicker than I thought it would. This whole thing needs to be fixed because I kind of broke it while I was doing other things. So I have a debug command that lets me skip the night. So I mean, other than that, the rest of the nights don't really have anything special about them right now because I haven't added them yet. So I've been focusing on day 2. I mean, day 3, I have added this objective, clean the restaurant. I still don't know what I want to do with that objective yet. I've been thinking about making it a night maybe where there's no timer and you have to go around and clean up tables, and maybe those tables will give you some kind of like puzzle or code that you have to solve. I don't know for sure. General stuff like that, maybe make it so you have to go into the backstage and grab supplies and put them around and grab a mop and clean up stuff. I don't know how complex I want it to be. I don't know how complex I can get it to be. We'll just have to see, but yeah, in terms of actual development, I'm focusing most of my time on day 2 because, as I'm sure you saw, it's a piece of garbage. So if I'll just go and skip through the rest of the game real quick. Day 4 doesn't necessarily have a very interesting objective either. It's just entertain the birthday girl. I still don't really know what I want to do with that, or if I want to change it. Like I said, it all depends. So I'll go ahead and skip to the final day, day 5. This is where I've added a couple changes to the game. You'll note immediately here, day 5, and then it just says hide, spooky, scary, or whatever. And I've had it so it plays a different ambience track. Obviously all the children are disabled, and so is Spring Bonnie here. That doesn't mean you can walk through here still, though. There's still a hitbox right there. Stuff like that. There's no timer either. It's basically just wandering around through an empty thing. Welcome, Blaze, to the stream, and by stream I mean the rambling session. FNAF indeed. So yeah, I have some ideas to what I want to do with this night. I've been thinking about adding some kind of I have a sprite for it here. I've been thinking about adding some kind of dithering effect, so that like shadow effect, so that you can only see around Fredbear. Really increase the spooky scariness of this whole thing. I don't know. This is a horror game. I mean, it is a thing I'm working on. I explained it in like a really long-winded way earlier in the stream, but this is a Scratch project because I wanted to actually make something with Scratch. This was kind of a test to see if I could make something in Scratch, and it slowly devolved into being kind of an actual game. So now I have to move past the whole, man, I could actually make something in Scratch. Can you add suggestions? I will take literally anything because I am just very non-creative. Uncreative? Is there a word for that? Uncreative. Is that a word? Uncreative. Uncreative. I guess it's an actual word. That just doesn't sound like a word. So yeah, other than that, if you just skip through this, it just does a shift completed, and then it boots you back to the title screen. So there's nothing really special about anything past day 2. So that's the gameplay so far. I can go ahead, let me pop out of it for now. You walk into the game like this, and then you'd have to head to the main stage. That's when your night starts. It's going to be hard. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get the background music going. It's all Minecraft music, so it might take a while for any of it to kick in. But yeah. So if I just do, because I don't know how much of you care, isn't it kind of like a FNAF fan game-ish? Yeah, so this whole thing started because, when I joined Scratch in like 2016 or something, I don't actually know. When did I join Scratch? Let me see if I can get there real quick. Yeah, almost a decade ago. When I joined Scratch almost a decade ago, I joined it and I made a FNAF fan game, and I called it Five Nights at Fredbear's because I liked Fredbear as a character. And Scott hadn't made anything about really, Fredbear's at that point except for FNAF 4. And so I made this really crappy fan game, and there was a couple people who liked it. And then I made a bunch of other stuff with Scratch, yada yada yada. Time moves on, and then it comes to like only a couple years ago, and I'm like, man, you know, I made that, you know, FNAF fan game, but it sucked. And hold on. After he gets on stage, you start up in an office, so trust me, there's gonna be at least 6 animatronics: Fredbear, Spring Bunny, Foxy, and Mangle. They don't tell you about the secret one that's in the back room. Jesus. So recently I started work on a, like, I guess remake, remaster of my old FNAF fan game. Don't play this. There's nothing to it right now. And so while I was doing this, I was like, yeah, this is kind of boring, and I'm not very good at this whole making a FNAF fan game thing. So I shifted my attention to making a spin-off game. So this is a spin-off game of my fan game, yada yada yada. Anyways, so that's more of the context around it. Night 1 day, you start you off with Spring Bonnie, which can crawl into the vents and into your office. The only way to stop him is by electrocuting him. The jump scare is gonna be really scary. We're going with an 18+ thing. Okay. The other reason why I'm not really working on Five Nights at Fredbear's anymore is because, frankly, I think there's a better Fredbear's FNAF game, which is the Return to Bloody Nights. I played that on stream on my YouTube channel, and it scared the crap out of me. It was also cool because the guy who made the game showed up and was like giving me these subtle hints that I was too dense to understand because I was so scared. But anyways, as I was saying, I'm gonna jump into kind of the behind the scenes explanation because I personally think it's interesting. No one else does, but it's whatever. I'd say the best one would be those nights at Fredbear's because it gives you a Poppy Playtime plus a Five Nights at Freddy's. That name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've actually seen anything about it. I mean, speaking of Poppy Playtime, quick shout out here. You know, on the YouTube channel, we just got done playing Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 on a stream. It was 6 hours of my life I'm probably never gonna get back. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of run through this the project real quick. I'm using an add-on called Scratch Add-ons, which gives me some more functionality and some quality of life features for Scratch, like this pause button and this volume slider and these folders. Like genuinely working in Scratch without folders would have killed me. It did a lot of the times when I was making the more complex stuff I made, like Pokeball Clicker Tycoon. That thing always looked like a hot mess. Anyways, so recently, you taking any suggestions, right? Because, yeah, I mean, I'll literally take anything. I don't know if it's actually going to get added, but like adding voice lines. That is one idea that I had, was adding stuff like Easter eggs. Like I was thinking about maybe adding like these small bits of like a VHS tape throughout the days that you pick up, and then if you pick up all of them, you can watch the VHS tape, and I don't know. Like I said, a lot of ambitious stuff that I don't know if I'll actually be able to implement, but we'll try it when we get there. Right now I'm focusing on like the main gameplay, so like the objectives and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously we have this object here, this sprite that just handles, you know, like that fade in and fade out effect. It's all done by this sprite. You walk around the building and you see something about 1983 and there's a kid crying. It's gonna be a really big one that people are not gonna miss. Yeah, like in the very first day, I don't think you were here for that, but like for the day one objective, there's this kid that you have to go find and he's crying like a little baby. I've been thinking about doing stuff like that. I've also had this other idea where like under certain like really specific conditions each day, you can walk into a room or something and there'll be like something super graphic and the room transition will only go up like halfway and then like glitch out and then restart the day, and that counts as like a secret you've seen. Just kind of stuff like that to make this game, you know, not, you know, be what it seems and stuff like that. Those are all ideas I've had. The select objects, it's just these scan lines you see over the entire thing. It just constantly puts itself on the front. A night mode, I don't know if I actually want to do any FNAF style gameplay with this game. I feel like I'd want to leave that in Five Nights at Fredbear's or whatever, mainly because I'm working on that in Godot, so I don't have to work on it in this, you know, thing. I'm not saying I couldn't. There's always potential, and I'm always, like I said, I'm always down for any suggestions, however outlandish, because that's more or less how I've gotten this far. but I'm thinking about it. There's a possibility. Don't worry. So yeah, if I go, obviously here's all the sprites for the introduction. I'll play it again just so you can see it. Nothing special, just plays the animation, yada yada yada. This is kind of strange because my Scratch account still goes by my old username because I don't have the heart to change it. But anyways. So yeah, if we boot into the title screen, obviously you can see all the different objects that are just for cosmetics. So like the foreground, it's just a vector sprite. I made these sprites here just really quickly. I don't remember what the burger was for, but I guess there's a burger. We have the two sun sprites that just slowly rise up. This just kind of floats up and down, as you can see here. Recently, oh, don't break it. Recently, I went through and I did day 3 February's mouth would be read from the Byte of 83 or Byte of 87. That's not a bad idea, actually. I've thought about, because I have this kind of general outline of like lore or whatever that I've kind of thought about. This I just kind of came up with in like 5 minutes and didn't really think that hard about, so it probably doesn't make much sense. It's also not completely adhering to the actual FNAF storyline, but I have thought about police tape, actually. Weirdly enough, that's the exact same object I thought about for one of the secrets on like maybe day 5 or something. So we're in the same headspace. There's this, but like I was saying, I've gone through and I've done some like refactoring and cleaning up of all the code, because before this whole thing was just a mess. You can even see it if you open up the public version of the project, which is a couple versions behind. But you know, like I've added these comments that more or less outline what each of the sprites do. You like FNAF games when they connect to the real lore. Take the Joy of Creation, for example. They may meet up a little bit in their own love. They still stick with FNAF. Yeah. That's something I've always appreciated is, you know, taking the story, but also kind of adding your own spin on it. Like, you can copy the story, but that doesn't really make for anything interesting because people have already seen it before. But taking your, you know, kind of the foundation and some of the characters and turning them to your own thing, I think it's interesting to me. So like I added this character, don't move that there. I added this character named, what's her name? Kimberly. I just kind of made her up randomly to add some kind of connection to the FNAF lore. If you read the instructions on the project, there's this bit. Oh, I'm coming in a static and you should see it says this. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely for the last day there's a lot of potential for stuff like that. I want to do something kind of, you know, super juxtaposed to the entire rest of the game on the last day. But yeah, so if you read like the instructions on the Scratch project or this little paragraph on the itch.io page, you can kind of see the general idea that I laid out. I came up with this, like I said before, I actually wanted to turn this into a game. But yeah, wasn't this, you made everything wrong, it was you. It wasn't the spring locks, it was me. I wish this would never happen so everything could be normal. I always come back. Yeah, that's honestly not far off from like the idea that I had. So I kind of took the whole idea of like Charlotte Emily and the crying child. I didn't give him a name because I think is there really any consensus on that? I think everyone thought it was Evan and then no one likes that theory anymore. I don't know, so I just never gave him a name. His name is Evan. Okay, I don't know. So I had the idea of, you know, making it so that the Byte of 83 happens, you know, the one you see in FNAF 4, and then, you know, I liked the idea of Afton like being mad at Emily or Henry Emily for, you know, still having a kid or whatever. Like, he gets super jealous and so kills her. That's the idea that I have. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Or like, I've had this idea that maybe the whole game is symbolic, and on the final day, you know, your sprite may look like you're playing as Fredbear, but you're actually playing as Charlotte Emily or something like that. Weird stuff like that. What if? I'm surprised that is that not actually a thing. That feels like something someone would have already done. You know, like a FNAF What If, because the story is so, complex and stuff like that. I've also made it so that my story more or less fits in. Like I've kind of left out everything past Ultimate Custom Night because, frankly, my own knowledge of the FNAF lore kind of goes out the window post Custom Night. But anyways, so just brushing past everything. This star sprite, you probably saw it on the screen. This would normally not be there. It's only there if you complete the game. This is just kind of my little attempt at adding a like a save data system, which I'll talk about in a second. And just this little guy here. So that's everything on the title screen. If I quickly go ahead and jump into the game here, just pausing on this screen here, you have the day number. Here's the funny thing how I got the lore. I was once scrolling on YouTube until I saw a timeline. That was another timeline, like finding Frankie, and then I clicked it and I had to watch it for 3 hours. You gain so much knowledge. Jesus. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about getting into, all the lore and whatnot post UCN, but I just haven't really cared as much. I don't know if it's just because I'm older now. It's not that big of a deal. I'm slowly piecing it together anyways, and I just like playing the games. Speaking of FNAF, if you want to see me playing the FNAF games, I have a whole series of me playing through every single FNAF game on my YouTube channel. And I also, because it's a bunch of streams, so if you don't have like at least a day to set aside to watch all that, I made a short kind of condensing the whole idea into 60 seconds if you want to watch that. Also just making an animation with Fredbear. His jaw open shuts every time he walks to represent the bite of 83 and his broken spring locks. That would be interesting. That would require a bit of tweaking of the way that I handle Fredbear, which I'll show you this behemoth in a little bit. But that's definitely something that could be possible. Interesting stuff like that. Yeah, I'll make sure to keep notes of this stream chat. In fact, here, I want to try something that I've never done before. Okay, so I know that I have, at least I give a suggestion I don't convert to code. That would have been a whole month of my life wasted. Yeah, no, I suck at coding. I've never claimed to be any good at it. I never claimed to be really good at much of anything. You animated once and it took 180 frames. I've tried animation a couple times and I never did it very well at it. I have like Flipnote Studio on my 3DS and that's about the extent of my animation knowledge. It's my sister who's the better artist than I am. That's why this entire game looks so ugly. So anyway, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to quickly add in something here. I want to add the chat onto the screen here so people watching can actually see the chat, like in the VOD. This is just a quick little hack thing I'm putting together, but I'm experimenting with adding more stuff onto the screen on my streams, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. For now, I'll just leave that there. Let's see if I can't. Sorry. Once again, I'm adjusting stuff. Let's see. Okay, that'll work for now. I'll just leave it like that for now. And so hopefully now any chat messages will appear on the screen, but I'm not sure. You have an idea? I don't think I would add, but should be a locked door where it says it's locked. You cannot open it. It's locked. You cannot open it, and then you have to keep trying for it to be unlocked. Little dog called Sophie Fox. That would be such a stupid reference, but it's really funny. Oh god, I'm glad that's the first comment I've managed to capture on the stream here. You can barely read that. Let me see if I can make that look a little better. I'm doing all of this in real time, so forgive me. Oh, that's actually adjusting the opacity. Okay, the opacity, brother, what? Let me set this to, yeah, that's fine. And then I'll just come over here. What new stuff are we adding today? I'll just give me a couple seconds. I'm not a very good streamer, okay? I'm not a very good streamer, if that wasn't obvious. Let's see, what is it? Let's just do, let's see if I can't just, hold on, I'm getting distracted. I'm trying to make it so you can actually see the chat on the screen. If you just give me like 5 seconds and I'll get there. Just save that as that. There we go. I've created a black box. But yeah, no, in terms of what I want to do today, if I actually ever give myself the chance, is I want to continue working on what's it called? Day 2, because day 2 is kind of a secret code you have to translate 100 times. Yeah, I'd be curious to add stuff like Caesar cipher stuff. Let's see if I can't make the size of this thing. Let's do like 800. That's okay. Let's do 850. There we go. And if I go, we're getting there. Right? We're getting there. Do maybe this, and then I can change the opacity of it, just like that. There we go. And then I just move it. It's a work of art, ladies and gentlemen. I'm making a masterpiece here. Jesus. Okay. And there we go. Chat's on screen. Only took forever. Anyways, so as I was doing before I got just royally distracted, you see at day 1 the instructions, and then the big thing is just the way that everything works in here. So the way that I've got it set up so far, idea for day 2, we're gonna do this a lore day. Add voice lines. Voice lines, a little kid talking to his dad. Little kid's own dad is William saying he doesn't want to go to Fredbear's for his birthday. He doesn't have the choice but to. That would be an interesting thing to add, is like little secret. Here's the idea thing. In the thumbnail I just have a comment that's filled with all the ideas. Lines for special cutscenes between days, etc. Yeah, I want to add more voice lines to the game, but I don't want to, like at the moment anyways. I'm still focused on gameplay, but those are definitely things I want to add in the future. Oh, let's see. So yeah, here's the room transition sprite. Like I said, whenever you move between, I guess if I jump into the game, I can kind of explain this a bit more organically. But for now, if you look over here, so obviously every time the player moves, there's a script called move, and it's absolutely huge because it's not very well optimized at all, and I'm using Scratch, so I don't have many of the fancy things that I get elsewhere. But this script, it just determines the direction you're moving. It updates it's called the direction variable, so the sprite actually knows what look to use. It's like when I move left, it actually, it actually looks like I'm moving left. When I move right, it actually looks like I'm moving right, and so on. And then there's these checks to make sure, if I'm actually running into one of these blue boxes that I can toggle on and off, it'll make sure I can't move in that direction. That's just my basic way of handling collision. Like I said, I could for collision. Right now it's currently just handled by detailed cutscenes, like they do very detailed drawing ones cutscenes. I think I kind of get what you're saying. Instead of like a pixel art style, maybe do like either a more pixel art or like detailed high resolution pixel art style for like certain cutscenes, or just like full on, like maybe even 3D rendered stuff, which would require me to actually learn how to 3D render, which is a whole different conversation. But yeah, you can see all this. This is just how a drawing, like even drawing. Oh, so like a maybe like something scribbled down in a sketchbook or something. I think I kind of get what you're going for, like the general idea. And then of course, this down here, as you can see, whenever Fredbear walks around, he has a like kind of footstep sound effect that I just generated in JSFXR, which is this website that lets you generate random 8-bit sound effects. It's super useful for like game jams and stuff, or when you're lazy and don't want to make actual sound effects. It's great. So I just have it so that when you're not moving, you still play the animation, but you don't make the walking sound effect. Just stuff like that. This script over here makes it so that when you need to find something we can agree on for night 2, basically we're just game designers trying to help each other. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so if you like walk through this, it'll teleport you to the other side depending on what they're called move areas. There's just these thin sprites all around the screen. You can see them if I were to stop the game. They just detect whenever Fredbear walks into them, more specifically this sprite here, which is always following Fredbear. This is more or less what I would do for the hitbox of Fredbear if it wasn't that this script here, go to game.fredbear, it lags behind, which means that that's not really practical. It's like, if I zoom in, you can see it better. So notice how whenever I move, this is the walk box that detects when I move between rooms. It lags behind a bit, which means that if I were to use that same idea for, you know, a regular hitbox, it would lag behind and cause more issues than just the current system does. So right now, game script cheat or something, mean entity cheat like any viruses screens. I mean, you can cheat on Scratch, yeah, very easily. I've thought about stuff like that, but the more I think about it, the more I think to myself, this is just like a simple little, you know, game that's it's not like super intense or skill based or competitive. It's just a simple little game, you know. I mean, and if people can, you know, figure out how to decipher my code, which sometimes I struggle to decipher my own code. Frankly, they deserve to cheat at that point if they can figure out what all my nonsense words mean. But I don't know, like stuff like that would be a lot easier if I was in like an actual game engine like Godot, but I'm not doing this in Godot for reasons I've talked about already. So yeah, every time you move around, it'll text you if you hit something. The way that the game knows what like room you're in is through this variable here called current scene. You can see the number up here is currently 3.1. If I move to a different room, it updates to 3.2. If I move into, say, this room, it updates to 3.11. This is probably not the best way to do this at all. In fact, I know it isn't. I'm thinking 2 steps ahead, but after this we can try running a game jolt thing like an itch or a game jolt project. Yeah, I mean, I'd be down to make more cool stuff. I have a game jolt, and obviously, you know, I've been referencing this itch page a couple times. I have other games on here too. Like I'm working on this one in Godot instead of in Scratch. This is like my own original game that I've worked on. It's pretty fun, albeit a bit janky. This version sucks, and there's basically nothing to that. So real good portfolio there. But yeah, so this this variable here called current scene, it's a global variable, so any sprite can access it or use it or whatever. If I go into the stage over here, you can see what all the numbers mean. If I were smarter and I had hindsight, I would have made it so that it didn't use numbers at all. Although there are certain times where numbers work better than you know, just having like it actually hold the value like right dining room or something like that. But anyways, so you can see all the different values. It stores not just like the room you're in, but also the scene you're in. So currently all of these are decimal numbers starting with 3, and that's because all the numbers that are, you know, related to 3 relate to kind of this main gameplay area. If I restart the project, you'll notice how it'll shift to 0. That's because the current scene intro is 0. We're adding multiple endings is an absolute yes, because that's true. I've been thinking about, you know, maybe not necessarily multiple endings, although that's definitely something I'd consider, because like you said, once FNAF got multiple endings, and multiple endings are fun. But just making it so that maybe you get more stars depending on how many secrets you've unlocked or something like that. But anyways, so yeah, as you can see, now that we're on the title screen, this number is updated to 1, because that's what the value for the title screen is. And stuff like that. It's just so, like, for certain checks, like for instance, the game will continue looping this title screen music. All my music is down here. While the current scene is equal to 1. So if this number changes, it'll stop playing the title screen music because the game knows it's no longer on the title screen. Just stuff like that. It's used for stuff like that. Are you waiting too long? The sun starts to sit in, the moon starts to rise. Day-night cycle. That'd be a neat little detail on the title screen. Which honestly probably wouldn't require too much updating. So I'll jot that down actually. You know, like I said, I just have all the random ideas that I've scribbled down on this comment in the thumbnail sprite. Yeah, so that's the current scene. It's probably the most important variable that I have in the game. Do I do these things on your own time? Do you do that on stream? I do these both. I do most of this during my own time. Like, this is the first time I've ever shown this game, like, on my YouTube or Twitch channel. I've been working on it just kind of in the background. Just, like, whenever I have free time or anything like that. So most of this is, actually all of this that you're seeing right now hasn't ever, been shown on Twitch or anything. I stream it on Twitch sometimes just in case anyone else wants to, see what random stuff I'm making or whatever. Just stuff like that. So yeah, if I were to start the game, not hurrying up, let's start on fish. Stream time in hand. Yeah, it's fair. Although I'm not super rushed or anything. I just kind of I stream this more or less because it gives me an excuse to work on stuff. But yes, I could sit here and explain everything all day. But for now, I would like to skip to day 2. As you can see, 4th is the shift completion screen. Current scene updated to 4, but we don't need that visible anymore, so I'm gonna hide it. So I'm gonna actually jump into like bug fixing and stuff. So yeah, the current idea for day 2 is that you have these 3 kids represented by these 3 exclamation marks, and you have to feed them cake until either they get poop pissed or, it hits 6 p.m. You want it to hit 6 p.m. because that means you would have succeeded. Right now, one of the things that I want to do is add a fail condition, because right now if any of the kids get too mad, it'll just end the night anyways, which doesn't necessarily count as a defeat. So that's something I want to add. But more importantly, these kids need to be fixed because I think I broke them. Mainly through my refactoring, because of course I broke something while I was refactoring, go figure. So we can quickly look over this code here. There are 3 different sprites, although they all share the same code. I could make it so that they're clones of each other, but that sounds more complicated than I care to worry about, so I'm working in the one sprite right now, and then once I get this kid figured out, I'm going to duplicate it twice, change the costumes, update where it spawns in, stuff like that. So right now, this is more or less what I've got going here. I've started adding, I had someone playtest this, the first time I've actually had someone like playtest a real bit of this game, and these were kind of the results of that playtest for day 2. The kids were way too aggressive at the beginning, so I've kind of added this simple system where the way they work right now is change the code out because people are just gonna think it's boring. The same kid every time. Change their skin color, change their outfit. Yeah. So that's kind of what this is. Just in case you don't know, costumes is just the name for the different appearances a sprite can take on. So right now, I'm just updating the one kid, and then I have all the other, the sprites for all the other kids that I'm just gonna import. So like these kids, like this kid has longer hair and a green party hat and different colored clothing, and this kid has kind of shorter hair, but it's blonde, and a different colored party hat. I think is that a different? Yeah, it's a different color. I might be colorblind. And different clothing and stuff like that. All these sprites can always get updated later. Like I said, it's not like I'm making this game to be like, the next big thing. I'm making it because I want to. But yeah, so right now it's just that whenever it's day 2, until the game ends, the kid will constantly like add to their hunger value, so they get hungrier and hungrier basically, and they'll pick a random time until they add another one of those values. And that time, I start out giving it a decent amount of time so they get hungrier slower. And then every time the hour ticks up by 1, this variable gets updated. And now that I think about it... No, this is right. -0, and you subtract... No, wait. No, this doesn't make any sense. Hold on. That's a bug. Okay, it shouldn't have been negative because... it would have been subtracting, so if it started at 0, it would have subtracted 0.5 from 0, which would end up with -0.5. 6 minus -0.5 is 6 plus 0.5. So the game was getting easier the longer the night went on, which is not good. So that's why we go over these things, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we go over these things. A simple a negative sign in the wrong spot can throw everything off, just like how a semicolon in the wrong spot can throw everything off. I've done that before in Java. So yeah, that's basically how the kids work so far. This aggression thing wasn't here before. I added it after this test to hopefully make this a bit more difficult. I don't know how I butchered the word slowly that bad, but so that's kind of my solution to that. And then obviously the hungrier they get, they'll eventually start looking more angry the more hungry they get, until it eventually hits a certain value. Let's see, what were the other things that I wanted to do here? I wanted to make it so that, well, that's just a problem that exists anyways. Tutorial needs to be added explaining where the children are and how to get cupcakes. I've tried resolving that a bit with the map marker, although I don't think it's the most elegant solution. I've been thinking about maybe replacing some of these exclamation points with more I guess descriptive icons. Hold on. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna have that work, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So anyways, if I go down here, okay, yeah. So what I wanted to do, and obviously, if you interact with a kid, and you actually have a cake, it'll reset the hunger to 0. It'll feed the kid basically. So the idea that I had, well, I didn't have it. The person who play tested, my sister did, was to make it a little more interesting by, instead of just run to the kitchen, grab a cupcake, run to the kids, give them a cake, rinse and repeat for a couple minutes, was to implement some kind of power system where you can come up to these ovens, which are in the kitchen, and these are the things that actually give you the cake. That's not right. What? Okay, I don't know what happened there. Once again, just bugs upon bugs upon bugs. This whole project is a mess. But anyways. So, oh wait, hold on. I noticed something here. My box doesn't look quite right, does it? Let me stretch that a little bit. Where's that? Okay, here we are. Stretch that to 900, 910, 20. There we go. That looks a bit better. Like I said, it's kind of a janky setup because I've just come up with it on the fly, but I don't know. We'll see how it works for now. So yeah, as I was saying, if I go back here, we just kind of have, this is the way that the ovens work right now. As you can see, I kind of describe it in English here. But just to kind of go over what I say, when it's day 2, every so often the oven is going to give itself, it's going to increase the bake time, which is just like a percentage showing how close the oven is to having a cake that the player can actually pick up. And once the bake time hits 100, the player will actually be able to go to the oven and pick up a cake, which will reset the bake time, and this process will repeat. So the idea was that instead of just having it be a random amount of time like this, instead of just, having it be a random amount of time that the player can't control, making it so that if you're holding E on the oven while it's baking, it'll actually speed up the rate that you're baking at, potentially at the cost of power or something. So maybe having these two interacting systems where, let me see. It might be easier if I draw it out. Kind of the idea. So you have an oven here. This is the oven, and obviously, if you're not interacting with it, then it's just gonna tick up by, say, 1% per second or something, right? And there's 0 power consumption, just like that. However, if you're in the room and it's not already done baking, you can hold on it, like with E or something, and maybe it'll go up by 2% or something larger per second, and that'll use like maybe 1 bit of power every like half second or something like this. And if you're not holding on the oven, this power will slowly regenerate, so that it's not like a completely useless thing. I'm not sure. I don't know. These are just ideas. So I've added a variable called power. I just haven't necessarily used it yet. I believe I have it set. Let's see. It's over here. Yeah. So this is the area where I handle just general gameplay stuff. And you can see power gets set to 100 right here. And so far the only plan I have is for it to be used by the ovens, but I'm not sure yet. Honestly, the more that I think about it, the more I'm debating about actually having, a power system. Maybe just making it so that if you are holding on the oven, it'll give you the boost, and the only downside is that you can't be there all the time to give it the boost. Maybe there doesn't have to be a system of power that will slowly drain whenever you use it. I don't know, that seems promising to me. The more that I think about it, that's honestly not a bad idea. Yeah, I'm gonna screw it. Let's do that. I'm gonna quickly. This is my poor attempt at version control. I'm going to save the project, and I'm going to cut out power. I don't believe we need it. So I've cut out power. So if I go ahead and close some of these things here, and I go back to this oven just needs refactoring in general. This whole thing is a mess. Let's see. And it's this script over here that I need to tweak. I've been kind of fiddling around with it for a while, but just making it so that maybe normally it takes like a good while for it to tick up by 1. We'll just do 1 second for now because that's easier. I'll leave that there, but I'm probably going to get rid of it just so there's less randomness in it, even though that isn't necessarily the biggest deal. I'm not sure. Let's see. We'll leave all this in here for now. I do have a sound for taking a cupcake. Obviously we couldn't hear it last time because I screwed up my script here. I don't have any of this listed. Let me just add this. I'll just add a little note here. I quickly threw together a a Trello board just to kind of give me a little sense of, kind of the stuff that I'm working on. So I'm going to focus on these ovens for the time being, because if I get the ovens done, the kids aren't going to be that hard to update. It's probably just going to end up being, like value tweaking and whatnot. Probably this value specifically. We'll see how it goes, though. Oh, let's see. Oven. Yeah, duh. Okay. So yeah, this is the script that I need to edit, and I need to figure out how I want to do this. Because this block here that Scratch has built in when E is pressed, it doesn't check to see if it's being held down or not. This block here, not this block, this block here will actually update constantly as to whether or not it's being held down or not. Honestly, for the time being, I'm just going to make it so that this is constantly said, just so I kind of get an idea as to how it works real quick. I'm going to connect this to game.start, even though it doesn't really matter. And then, let's see. Okay, yep. I'm going to steal this loop here. And then I'm going to update it so that it continues looping until what's called the floor of current scene is equal to 3. What this does is it's going to continue this loop. So effectively, the current scene variable, right? It's always going to hold a number, right? And when you're in gameplay, that number is always going to be 3 point something. And what this function called floor does is it basically, no matter how high it is, so even if this is like 3.9, it's always going to round down to the nearest whole number. So if this is 3.1, the floor of 3.1 is 3, which will tell the game that you're still currently like in the game, like the gameplay itself. You're not on like the day transition screen or the title screen, because obviously the floor of 1 isn't 3, so this will not loop. So if I quickly go and start this, and I go up to I go up here, as you can see it currently says false. If I hold down E, it switches between true and false, which are just Boolean values. So this tells me, as you can see, whether or not E is being held. So I can go ahead and update this script here. And I'm going to kind of piece together this new script that I have here. I'm actually going to change it so that it only happens when you're on day 2 and stuff like that. So I'm going to very quickly, this is going to be a super messy little bit of nested loops or nested conditions, but I stopped caring 10 years ago. So I'm going to make it so that this only runs after you move between a room. That's what this message does. I always call them signals ever since I started using Godot. So I'm going to very quickly add an if day equals 2, so that this only works if obviously you're not on day 3. You can't speed up the bake time of the oven because the oven isn't on during day 3. At least it shouldn't be. So that's where this loop's gonna come in. Alternatively, I might honestly update it so that it's hold on. I might make it so that it's repeat until that and not that. I think this does the same thing. Honestly, there's probably a lot of places that I could make this kind of update. I'm not entirely sure if this is any faster or not. And frankly, that looks ugly to me. Okay, never mind. We're gonna do what I had before. Stop changing things. You can change things later. Keep to the status quo. There we go. We don't need the not anymore, because we're checking if the day is 2, not if the day is not 2. Okay, so here's the point where I'm going to start incorporating this bit here, and the kind of speed up bit. So I want to add a variable quickly called, I'm not sure what to call it. I guess we'll just call it bake boost. There we go. I use snake case for all of my variables, even though frankly I like camel case better, and you can call variables in Scratch like full actual words. You can add spaces and whatnot. I don't know. It doesn't matter. This is just my convention. Sue me. So yeah, I have this variable. I'm gonna call it bake boost, and I'm just gonna have it be a number that updates this 1 second delay. So I'm gonna maybe make it similar to the aggression mechanic that I had for the kids. So I take 1 minus whatever bake boost is. So obviously if you're not holding down E on the oven, then the bake boost is gonna be 0. Let's see, bake boost is gonna be 0. So 1 minus 0 equals 1, the regular rate at which the bake time goes up. And I'm just gonna toss it out for now. Let's see. And then also we have key E. So I'm gonna add a new if condition. And frankly, I'm gonna zoom out and move this somewhere else just because other scripts are probably gonna get in the way. I'm just gonna give myself some more space to work with. I'll move stuff back and rearrange stuff later. For now, I'm gonna do this. So if you're currently pressing E, no. So if you're currently pressing E, and I might honestly move this up here because that might be more efficient. The more I think about it, the more I think it might be easier to just do this. There. Although I might shuffle these around because that makes more sense to me. Also, I don't exactly remember what it's called, but like when you have an AND, it'll only check to see if the first one is true. If it's false, it doesn't have to check the second one because it knows the full condition is going to automatically be false. I don't remember what that's called. I kind of forgot from my intro to comp sci class. But that's okay because it doesn't matter. I just know that it exists, so I'm going to try and use it, assuming that Scratch uses it. Anyways, I'm getting off track again. So yeah. Potentially. I think I'm going to have it so that if E is pressed and you're currently, interacting with, or you're currently in like the hitbox for the oven, because if I flip into here, it's not actually the oven itself that has the hitbox. I have special hitboxes for the ovens, so that when you walk into them, into this certain box, that's when you'll be allowed to interact with it. They're slightly, as you can see right there. Honestly, I could probably get away with not having these, but this is what I have. I might always update it later. Like I said, there's always room for improvement everywhere. This entire project is a mess. Like if I were to hand this to like a professional Scratch creator, they would probably throw up on the spot, but that's okay. So I'm going to grab this condition here. So if bake time is 100 and the cake amount is less than 5, this condition is just here so that I have a limit so that you can only pick up 5 cupcakes. It's an arbitrary limit, but I don't know, I felt like adding one anyways, just so you couldn't amass like a billion cupcakes. And it's also because the way that I have the little display to work is that each number is its own sprite, and I don't have like a dynamic number system, so I don't feel like adding more sprites. It's the little things, really. It's the small decisions that don't really matter, but I feel the need to explain them anyways. So I'm going to throw this into an if-else condition, and then I'm going to take all of this code right here and throw it into the if statement. So every time you know, you're up to the oven. It's day 2, so the oven's on, and you're pressing the E key. It'll check whether or not the bake time is, you know, all the way full and you have room for another cupcake. If so, it'll add the cupcake. And honestly, I should probably get rid of this wait, because I really don't think it matters. That was just initially there so that there's a bit of a delay, just like there is at the beginning. I've added this delay so there's like a bit of offset between these two ovens. They each have different delays, so this one's 3 to 9, this one's 5 to 8. In reality, it doesn't really matter. I'll probably update that as well. For now, I'm just going to scrap that just to make things a little nicer. I'm also going to get rid of this because I don't need it anymore, because obviously I've moved all that logic into this beast. So now in this else bit, we can actually add the logic that speeds up the bake boost. So I'm going to add another if else, just so I can toggle between. So if the bake boost is currently equal to 0, then I'm going to set it to the value that I want to add. So let's do like maybe a 0.5, so that instead of taking 1 second to tick up, it takes half a second, thus taking half the time to bake if you're holding on it. Otherwise, if bake boost isn't 0, it'll reset itself to 0. I don't know. We'll see if this works. I can already see a flaw with this, but I'm gonna try it anyways before I do anything drastic. So let me just quickly come up here. I believe it's still saying, so I'm gonna just do that to overwrite it. So if we watch this thing, actually here, let me do this real quick. Let me disable all the let me disable all the kids real quick, if you don't mind. Just temporarily, I'm going to brutally murder the children. I don't know why that's there. There we go. Okay, the kids can no longer get angry, so I have infinite time, basically. So I have Bake Boost showing, not exactly what I wanted to do, but I guess we're in a different room now, so that's fun. Gonna switch back. This is just a mess of a stream. I'm gonna boot into here, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to show bake time so you can see the amount of progress we were making. I'll drag that down there as well, just so you can see it. I'm gonna hide that. So yeah, if I press E, as you can see, it's going up every half second. If I press E again, and that's the problem I was expecting. Actually, it might be. What would be? I'm thinking of a different solution to this. If I take this out, if E is pressed and it's interactable, I might just have it so that it sets the boost anyways, and then if I convert this to an if, then I convert this to an else, just like that, so that the boost is always, I have to hold down E on it to keep the boost going. So as you can see, if I let go of the boost, it goes back to a second. If I hold down, it goes up to half a second. If I let go, see, just like that. I don't know. And honestly, I might make it so that, this might be a better idea, actually. Hold on. If I update it so that these are in separate scripts, so that this one is always, you know, just a hold, but, if I make it so that this is just a press, that way you aren't holding down E and you'll suddenly get the cake. I don't know. It's once again, it's the little things. I'm gonna try it. I'll experiment. If I like it, then I'll keep it. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. So this is a really long if statement, which more or less just does this, but instead of, you know, constantly checking if I'm holding down E. It'll just happen when I press the button. So I can test it out here by just... Sorry. I'm not sure what just happened there. I'm gonna hold down E anyways. Weird. What just happened there? That's interesting. I don't know. On second thought, I might just move it back, because frankly, I don't think this is that big of a deal. So I'm just gonna take it, move it back. It's fine the way it was. I'm just getting pedantic about it. There we go. Okay. So now everything's in one script, or one little block of code, which makes it a bit better. So that actually worked. That worked a lot better than I thought it would, in all honesty. Obviously, I can tweak these values, but for now, this works quite well. And also works a lot better than I thought it would. So that is going to be the script I'm going to stick with for the time being for the ovens. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to add a comment just to kind of explain what this does. There we go. Baking a cake. Time less than 100. There we go. So this bit here just explains in kind of plain English on like a high level overview of what this script does, because it's a little clunky to read through. I'm also going to make sure that holding E over here doesn't do anything. If it doesn't, if I move to a different room, it doesn't. I'm back into the same room, holding E doesn't do anything. If I interact with this hitbox, obviously it only resets that one. There we go. Okay, sweet. So overall, it seems like it's working quite well, which I'm quite happy with. I'm going to also, by the way, don't mind the vacuum in the background. Like I said, it's not like this is going to be a super, professional stream or whatever, so I wasn't expecting greatness. I'll turn up the music a little bit though for you guys, just so you can hear it a bit better. But yeah, I think, and this system could also be tweaked. So if I did want to reintroduce the whole power idea, I could. But for now, I'm going to stick with it just being a simple hold on it, make it go faster. That's it. No other systems to deal with. Because I don't know how I feel about introducing this whole power system only for it to only be used for one night and then never used again. Sorry, day, not night. You know how it is. So yeah. Let's see. So, also, I was just reading over what Blaze said earlier about changing costumes and stuff. When it comes to this trial, this is something that I was going to explain, and then I kind of got sidetracked and started actually working on stuff instead. But one thing to note is the way that the game renders in, like, renders these scenes. It's probably not the best way to do it, and it's caused me so many headaches over the years. Dude, it's been a couple months. Over the entire course of me developing this game. And it's because I'm kind of generating these rooms in a strange way, and I can showcase that by coming in here and making it so that the room transition is invisible, or like see-through. So when the game loads, you'll see everything that happens. So as you saw there, everything kind of loaded in from bottom to top. And if I go into another room, you can see that as well. Everything loaded in from bottom to top. And that loading happens just as the room transition hits the bottom, the loading happens, and then once everything's done loading, the game will tell the transition sprite to slide back up, reveal the fully loaded scene. Also during that time is when stuff like the player moves down. Also during the transitions, the player is not allowed to move. It's only when the screen starts sliding up that the player is allowed to move again. This is just done by setting a variable called speed in the character. So as you can see, whenever as you can see, this stops the player from moving until the next room finishes rendering. Speed. This is one other problem with the game, is that this speed is dependent on your FPS. So if you have a higher FPS, then you will move faster. This is definitely a feature. This is intended to, this is a very intentional feature to screw over all those using a Chromebook, and also all those using Firefox, because allegedly Scratch runs at 10 frames less on Firefox. I know because I use Firefox, so when I go to performance, the max FPS a regular Scratch project can have without using Turbo Warp or anything like that is 30 FPS. In Firefox, it's at a constant 22, 23. So I move slightly slower when I was, when moving around. When I first started this game, I didn't know that was a thing. So when I went and tested it, like if you were to play this version, the itch version, which plays at 30 FPS because it's packaged using, I think, Turbo Warp, but I don't remember what I used exactly. Honestly, your movement is not that far off. Never mind. Okay. But like if I were to play this in Microsoft Edge, I move around a lot faster, and animations play a bit faster because everything is frame dependent. Because I didn't think about that when I was making the game. So, yeah. Also, this like logger and stuff like that is another part of Scratch add-ons. It's super useful. I've used it to debug a couple things. Like this threads bit is also super useful because you can see the amount of things running at once, and that helped me cut down on a lot of those when I was optimizing the game a little bit. I mean, still, this probably isn't the desirable amount of threads you want, but the game, when running in Firefox, runs at a constant, 22, 23. When I run it in Edge, it runs at a constant 30. So it's not like it's super, demanding or whatever. I forgot what I was talking about. Room rendering. Yeah, okay. So the way that I've done it is this. So every time I walk out of the room, it'll de-render everything, and then there are like only 2 sprites that actually control all these kids and all these tables and whatnot. And that is these 2 sprites right here. A sprite called Object and a sprite called Child. So I'm going to go over Object because it's a bit simpler. So what happens is every time the player moves between a room, they call the move start signal, message, whatever. And that gets called through these movement area objects, which set the next room to go to. So it first calls this move to room function, or not function, method, Jesus Christ. Let's see if I can remember. Yeah, of course. Okay. So the move to room just actually moves the player physically. And that is about... No, of course. It moves the player, and it also updates the background, And of course, by this time, the room transition has already covered the screen, so you can't see any of this. So the player gets teleported down. The backdrop changes. The backdrop is where all of the looks of each room are. And then once this gets done running, it'll call this signal called clear props, which will tell, any specific objects or whatever to, disappear. But more importantly, it tells these two sprites, object and child, to like basically get rid of all of these different, kids and all these different tables. So you start out with a clean slate. And then once that gets called, it calls this just wonderful signal called load props. And load props is something I've been struggling with for a while. So if you look in here, you'll see a signal receiver called load props. And then you see all these different signals here. Notice how each of these are numbered a different number, and they're all called load layer. This was my solution to a problem I've had for a while, which is Scratch's rendering system. So if I come down, there's no rendering blocks in the stage. So if I come over here, you notice I only get 2 blocks to control how the sprites, layer on top of one another. So how to determine whether a certain object is above or appears above or below a different one. So I can either send a sprite to the front or the back layer, or make it move forward or backwards some number of layers. It's all relative blocks, right? I can't tell a sprite to go to a specific layer. There are systems to kind of work around these super limited blocks. Like Griff Patch has a system to do it. But I didn't think I needed that complex of a system for my game. I just kind of jerry-rigged it so that it was all the layers were hard-coded and stuff, which is one of the reasons why, for instance, when you're in the office, you can't walk around the office table fully because initially you appear behind the office table. And I don't have anything set up so that you appear in front of it if you were to walk all the way around it and under it. It's a whole thing. I could honestly show it to you really quick. If I pull this up and I just, for the time being, I just copy that and I just delete it, I can very quickly, my player's stuck. Oh, I know why, because my hitbox isn't aligned. There we go. So if I quickly run over to the office, I can show you kind of what I mean by the whole layering thing. So if I run down here, and I go down here, so as you can see, normally I would appear behind this table because, I'm farther away from it just based on this perspective. And the way that I have it set up right now is that there is a hitbox right here. And the reason is because with the current way that it's layered, if I were to go, behind it like this, as you can see, the legs are appearing in front of me because it doesn't have what's called Y sorting. So I don't, the player doesn't change what layer he's on depending on, where everything else is relative to him. Everything is more or less hard-coded in. So that's why I have this, what is it called? Where is my thing? Hold on. Wait, what? Okay, I'm not sure what just happened. That's a new one. I haven't seen that before. I have just somehow managed to delete all of that entire hitbox. Okay, that's new. I will very quickly fix that. Okay, so now, as you can see, that hitbox there, I cannot walk through. Hopefully this is kind of making sense. If it isn't, it's not necessarily a big deal. These are just kind of, like I said, the under the hood things that don't matter to anyone but me. So that's what each of these does, is it effectively, it loads everything in layer by layer so that everything is guaranteed to be on the right layer. So that's what each of these does. So whenever something gets rendered, it will only be rendered when its specific layer is called. So going back to these child sprites, if I quickly move into a room that actually has them, I can maybe dissect a bit easier what's happening. So if I pause this quickly, we are currently in scene 3.3. So if I go into the child sprite, you can see these message receivers here. All of these are receiving those specific load layer things. And what that does is when it hits a certain layer, it'll check certain conditions, and if those conditions are correct, it'll create effectively that child at the correct position with the correct look, yada yada yada, and the child will be placed on the correct layer. And each child gets loaded in like this. And the reason there aren't 1,000 like child sprites in here is because I'm using Scratch's cloning system. So this pink block is a custom block that I defined. You can see the definition over here. So what happens is all of the different states that these children can be in are all different costumes in here with these super long names that I set in here. And so when it switches to that specific costume, it'll switch depending on whatever hair I input, depending on what state they're supposed to be in. Stuff like that. It'll flip them to the right direction, it'll put them in the right spot, and then it'll create a clone. So effectively it's like stamping down an instance of the child somewhere. So the actual child sprite itself you're seeing here is never actually visible in the game. It's just making clones of itself everywhere to kind of stand in for the children. And then these clones, they get into their correct position, they put themselves on the correct layer, and they constantly play this 2-frame animation. And that's more or less what these children do. That's the way that I have everything appear in the game. So that's the reason why everything kind of pops in, from bottom to top, because the topmost layers, the ones that are supposed to appear on top, are towards the bottom of the screen. And so they appear first, followed by next, down, then on and on and on and so forth. This system, my whole explanation here probably didn't make any sense, but it's the best I got. The same system, as you can see here, happens for the objects. It's just they don't have as complicated of sprites because they're all just they're static images. So each object in here, most of these are tables. There's also the arcade machine that appears, the balloons that appear a couple times, the kitchen counters here, as well as the trash can. And the stage curtain is an object in here as well as the broken Freddy head or the Fredbear head on the show stage, and the backstage shelving. These are all different costumes, and what the game does is effectively just stamp these down in specific areas using a similar setup to the children, or to the child sprite. It's, like I said, it's probably not the most efficient system. I've thought of different ways to do it. This was just the first way that I implemented, and I've been grappling with these layers for a long time. I even wrote a devlog about it on the itch page. This was a previous iteration that I came up with. That system broke pretty quickly because it wasn't as flexible as this one. It was literally just each of these, there was only one load message, and it was the load props message. And when it received it, each of these blocks had an additional parameter called on layer. The only problem is when it comes to Scratch layering, a lot of it depends on the order in which everything is called, which is why that system broke so quickly, and it became more of a headache to deal with than anything else. So long story short, everything works now, and I don't see it breaking in the future. It's probably inefficient, but it works, and that's frankly all I care about. So that's the way that the kids and the children work. They're all part of this props thing. Everything else renders in a similar way. So like this Spring Bonnie thing, it's its own custom thing because it obviously isn't a child, but it also has animation frames unlike regular objects, so it's its own sprite. Once again, probably not efficient, but whatever. It loads in on layer 5, and it does so via this signal here, and it goes the correct amount of layers back and forth and yada yada yada. Same with this office table, it loads on layer 8 and stuff like that. So kind of going back to the whole reason why I started this whole rambling session was because of Blaze's message earlier. The reason that all of these kids around have the same hair color and the same clothes is because to add those kinds of things with my current system would require more costumes here. A lot more costumes. And I don't have a system built that could easily deal with that. Is there a way to do it? Oh, I'm sure there is. There's always a way to do anything better than what I have. But for right now, with, how... Because, I mean, this is technically only, like, version 0.0.6. This is good enough, especially for what I'm making here. Nothing, really big and complex. It's definitely something I'd like to change in the future. And that's kind of why I made it so that these, cake children have special sprites, because they stand out compared to everyone else. But that's my excuse for why all these kids more or less look the same. It's because of the limitations and the jankiness of my system. So yeah, I kind of forgot what we were doing. We were working on the oven mechanic, yes. So the only other thing I need to do now is replace this oven 2, kind of like these cake children, is basically just a duplicate of oven 1. Right now, as you can see, it hasn't been refactored like oven 1 has, so it's missing like the sound effect and stuff like that. So the way that I'm going to handle that is in the super efficient manner. And you're going to watch very closely as I do it. Yeah, I'm going to blow your mind here real quick. You're never going to see this coming. My genius is almost palpable. So, Jesus. Real quickly, actually, I'm going to tweak this so that it's like, I feel like 0.75 is better to me. Maybe up this to like 1.5. So then it's, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 1.25 so that it goes down to 0. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm tweaking values. The values don't matter. As long as this doesn't end up being negative, that's all that counts. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly note 90 and 120, just for reference. This was also 3 and 9. I'm going to note that as well, although I might tweak that anyways. Those are basically the only unique things between, the oven 2 and oven 1. I could probably just make it so that I clone oven 1. But like I said about the cake children, that just sounds more complicated than I care to deal with. So oven 2 is gone. We're going to duplicate oven 1 to make oven 2. So now that we have oven 2, I'm gonna move over here. All of my comments are gone. I don't know why that happens, but it's kind of irritating. I don't know why duplicating like sprites makes the comments disappear, but it's stupid annoying. And which is why I would never recommend Scratch for any kind of serious project unless you are, masochistic like me. So there we go, 9120. We're gonna update this to like 3 and 9. Keep the same general variable there. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this comment because it's relevant. Add it. Move this over. Expand so you can actually read it. All these comments you could access by just going to oven 1, but in my opinion it's easier if you can actually read them on both. Drag this over so it's not in the way of anything. We're going to update it so that this is corresponding to the oven 2 hitbox rather than the oven 1 one, and also making it so it's corresponding to the interactable thing. So I think other than that, that's pretty much... Oh, hold on. We need to come down here, and I also need to update this. For the oven 2, interactable. That's a mistake I made earlier. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That's the 2 ovens with the updated mechanics done. So if I just move over here, well, obviously it's not day 2 yet. I'm gonna quickly make it so I hide the room transition because we've already talked about how the room loads in. I'm just gonna skip because I can't be bothered to go run over to the child right now. So now these ovens should be working with our new updated, new shiny mechanics. So if I step in here, that's interesting. Let me pop this out. Pop this in here. Now that I think about it, I don't know why there's a clone block in there. I think that was me experimenting with that earlier. That should most definitely not be in there. I'm going to move these go-tos in here. So this is 90 by 120. And then, of course, I have to delete clones, which is annoying, but... Oh, never mind. Okay, screw it. We're just gonna restart. I don't know why there's a clone there. That's just remnants of my earlier testing. Oopsie. Okay, I'm gonna skip forward. Yeah, I might spice up this completion screen. Maybe some kind of, like Blaze was saying, some in-between cutscene or something like that. So if I run up here real quick... So obviously these are cooking really slowly, so if I hold on to this, hopefully it'll cook faster. Maybe it'll add some ways so you can actually, like there's an indication of you speeding it up, like maybe add a fire in here or something. Because right now it's just super, it's not very obvious that it's, you know, cooking. Let me make it so that I can actually see the bake time on each of these. So here's both of their bake times. As you can see, bake oven 2, I'm holding E on, and it is going much faster. I don't know, just having these values like this should hopefully make it so that it feels like you have to do, you know, more. Although holding E isn't obviously the most intense gameplay anyways. I don't know. It's, like I said, it's still a work in progress, but this definitely feels more interesting than the last time. Hopefully it'll make it, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, a lot of this can be refined as well. I'm going to quickly make it so that I can actually see the kid's aggression. Not the aggression necessarily. It's currently 2 p.m., so obviously he's currently a little mad. There we go. So 2 p.m. obviously because the aggression has gone up a couple times. I might make it so that instead of being a pick random, just make it like a constant, kind of like I've updated for this, just to remove a bit of the randomness from it to make it a little more predictable. But I don't know. I mean, other than that, that's pretty good. I'm going to move that over there. I still want to add a better explanation for the ovens. I think that might come down to me adding something like some text that appears in the kitchen, kind of like I do with the map hint, and it'll like point at the ovens and say hold E to cook faster or to bake faster, you know. Lights display baking time or something simple like that, and it only appears for a little bit and it'll disappear after a while, just so you kind of, you know, to hold E on the oven. I don't know, we'll see. Hold on just a All right, sorry that the audio was doubled up there, but that more or less completes just a little task that I wanted to get done today. And obviously we did a bunch of brainstorming courtesy of you guys. Thank you for that. So yeah, if you guys want to see more of kind of me working on this game, it probably won't constitute as much rambling because I've already explained everything that I wanted to explain. This was the first time that I, showed off this game, like actually said, hey, this is the thing I'm working on, and didn't just publish it. So if you want to go... Oh, hi.
Is she pretty?
Hi, Elizabeth.
Is she pretty?
Yeah, something like that.
She has lipstick on.
You're okay. Okay.
Give Uncle Luke a
Hello,
kiss.
brother-in-law!
Give Uncle Luke a kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Thank you, Elizabeth.
God.
Good.
It's the first kiss you'll ever get.
I know. It's
What's
last too.
Let's go take it off.
Anyway, sorry about that. My niece came in. Yeah, other than that, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Like I said, if you want to see more of me working on this, please let me know. That's all for now. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.